Hey there, all you musical marvels! Welcome to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and the new trailer for Marvel Studios' upcoming Disney Plus show Hawkeye has given a small but mighty group of MCU/Broadway fans
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
the gift of Rogers the Musical. If you have been with this channel for a while, you probably know that my biggest obsession, besides musical theater, of course, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, aka the MCU.
Fans have a deep connection to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And if you aren't up to date with everything currently going on in the saga of superheroes, the multiverse has been broken open and thousands of realities are now possible. And just like the MCU, there is a Broadway multiverse where hundreds of shows have aimed for Broadway but never quite made it.
We may be going to Broadway.
One of those musicals that died a boarding was an actual Captain America the Musical, which was to debut in 1985.
That can't be real, right?
Yes, a real Captain America musical. So let's execute a classic superhero landing into the history of this obscure Broadway never was. Random musical theater history trivia, assemble.
Wow. You sounded just like Captain America just now.
As I mentioned before, the new Disney Plus show Hawkeye just premiered its trailer, which, by the way, looks so good. And not only that, but it looks like we're getting a canonical Broadway musical about Captain Steve Rogers, aka
Captain America.
Though Cap is already no stranger to big musical numbers in the MCU. There are a couple fun little things to point out in just that short glimpse alone of Rogers the Musical in Hawkeye, but first, let's talk about the Cap musical that almost was.
Captain, that's your cue.
On April 5th, 1985, the New York Times reported that a big-budget musical about Captain America was coming to Broadway. The big budget in question was $4 million, which today is about $10 million.
What? 10 million.
This would of course not be the first musical to be based on a cartoon. Lil Abner and Annie had come along previously, and it wasn't even the first comic book inspired musical, with It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman opening on Broadway almost 20 years prior in 1966. That musical is bonkers in its own right, and one I'll break down in the future on this channel for sure.
I'll put it on the list.
The idea for a Cap musical started with writer Mel Mandel in 1982.
No photos, huh?
Mandel's previous theater credits were just one show and off-Broadway to off-Broadway to Broadway transfer titled My Old Friends, about senior citizens living in a retirement community.
Shady Pines, Ma.
Mandel brought with him two of his collaborators from My Old Friends to this Captain America project. First, his writing partner Norman Sachs, who, together with Mandel, were credited for My Old Friends' book, music, lyrics, and poster design.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Definitely men of many talents. And also Philip Rose, who directed My Old Friends, was on board to direct. So now I'm sure the question you're asking yourself is, what was this Captain America musical to be about? Was it an origin story like Captain America the First Avenger? Would he be fighting Red Skull or Hydra? Would Bucky be there?
Who the hell is Bucky?
The answer to all those valid questions is a big fat no. Mandel believed that the audience wouldn't root for the star-spangled man with a plan if he started out the dashing hero we know him to be. A fair deduction, after all, Skinny Steve jumping on that grenade in the first Captain America movie was the soul of that film, in my opinion. But instead of young Skinny Steve, Mandel intended Steve to be a paunchy, washed-up man forgotten by his country, going through a midlife crisis.
You hate to see it.
Not quite the Steve Rogers we all want to imagine in our minds. The basic plot seemed to concern middle-aged Steve and his girlfriend named Sharon Phillips, who happens to be running for president. Sharon, having nothing to do with Sharon Carter from the comics and MCU, is a strong, independent, modern woman.
Everything today is thoroughly modern.
She's running to be the first female president after all. But Cap is a little behind the times when it comes to gender equality and wants her to be a simple housewife and fulfill her womanly duties.
You have no idea how to talk to a woman, do you?
Yeah, big ol' yikes. If elected, Sharon plans to ban a new face cream put out by evil cosmetics tycoon J. Peters, our villain, which is actually a brainwashing cream, of course. Peters has Phillips kidnapped by terrorists and hidden in a secret lair underneath the Lincoln Monument, as you do. Another character, a young tomboyish girl named Mister,
Hey, mister.
is the one to eventually snap Cap out of his melancholia, which causes him to get back into shape and save the day once more. This sounds absolutely bonkers.
It really does.
Steve's big transformation into Captain America was envisioned as a ballet/pantomime using hydraulics, blacklights, lasers, and projections. And one scene had Sharon Phillips' campaign manager and aides fearing the worst for their boss when she's kidnapped, and they sing a song imagining the first presidential inaugural funeral, which for some reason would resemble a Grateful Dead concert.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Choices.
Our titular hero was to be played by John Cullum, a Broadway staple and two-time Tony Award winner for Shenandoah and On the 20th Century. He also starred in Urinetown, On a Clear Day You Can See Forever, The Scottsboro Boys, and dozens more. They went so far as a costume fitting for Mr. Cullum, though I'm sure only for publicity reasons. The show's villain, cosmetic CEO J. Peters, which, side note, what kind of a villain is that? An evil cosmetic CEO? The 80s were a really weird time, kids. But the villain was to be played by the great Cleavon Little. Little shot to stardom as the title character in the Broadway musical Pearly, for which he won the Best Actor Tony in a musical for 1970. He would of course go on to even bigger stardom as Sheriff Bart in Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
For the role of presidential candidate and Cap's love interest Sharon Phillips, both Cloris Leachman and Linda Lavin were approached, the latter of which stole the show with her solo You've Got Possibilities in the aforementioned It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. For the part of the young girl who whips Cap into shape, the role was never actually cast or even auditioned, but famously there were ads in hundreds of comic books at the time searching for a young girl between the ages of 10 to 14 who could sing, dance, and act up a storm to play Cap's special friend, which I'll admit doesn't sound too great through a modern lens.
That was an unfortunate choice of words.
The show went through many changes between 1982 and 1985 when the show was announced in the New York Times. An early song list, almost none of which appear in later drafts, have some wackadoo song titles. Some fun ones are Steve's first solo, A Slightly Uncommon Cold, a number called Dynamite for the villains, and my personal favorite, March of the Merchandise.
Merchandising! Merchandising!
The later version of the script contains numbers like A Question of Weight, no doubt about Steve's punchiness, Nice Guys Always Finish Last, and Nobody Asked Me to Lead a Parade This Year for Steve. When the show was announced in 1985, the charge was led by the show's new producer, Sherry Upton, pictured here in the arms of her mighty hero, John Cullum. Upton had scored big time with the review One Mo' Time in 1979. Several backers auditions were held, but no money was coming in. Marvel itself funded several early drafts of the show and were to be producers on the show if it were to reach Broadway, but if you know your comic book history, Marvel in the 1980s had its own slew of financial problems and eventually backed out. By 1986, Broadway seemed to be out of the question.
Sometimes patience is the key to victory. Sometimes it leads to very little, and it seems like it's not worth it. And you wonder why you waited so long for something so disappointing.
The show was announced to play regionally in 1987 at the Pennsylvania Stage Company in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
What was that word you just said?
Allentown?
However, when Upton was only able to raise reportedly $125,000 of the $200,000 needed for that production, it was eventually pulled from that season and done for good.
Please don't do this. We have time. We can work it out.
Now, I don't think we'll be seeing any of this material in the upcoming Hamilton-esque looking Rogers the Musical in Hawkeye, and from what I can tell, we're probably all much better off.
Yeah, glad we dodged that bullet.
I mentioned earlier some fun little things about the snippet we see in the Hawkeye trailer to point out. Right here is Adam Pascal. Pascal, of course, was the original Roger in Rent, as well as Radames in Aida, and has appeared in several other Broadway shows. And though it seems kind of unlikely, some people think that this actor here playing Thor looks a little like Chris Evans, the MCU's former Captain America. I do have to admit that it kind of looks like him, but we shall see. Would you want to have seen this failed Captain America musical? Are you like me and totally excited for Hawkeye to come to Disney+? Let me know down in the comments. I really love hearing from you guys, and I promise to respond to everyone. And if you want to just geek out about Broadway musicals and or the MCU with me, hit me up on Twitter at @BWayGhostlight, because when it comes to talking musicals and the MCU,
I can do this all day.
And if you did like this video, a like and especially a share goes a super long way to help grow this channel. So be sure to share this with the paunchy superhero in your life.
I understood that reference.
Until next time, I'm Captain Mark Bonani. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. I'll see y'all next time.